The number one way to stay stuck as a property investor is not buying in the wrong suburb. It is not overpaying. It is not bad timing or rising rates or any of the things that get blamed on the news. It is something that not enough people talk about and almost everybody gets wrong: your loan structure. I've sat across from investors with great properties, great incomes, and genuinely strong portfolios on paper who are completely stuck, not because of the market, because of the way their loans were set up. And the brutal truth is that most brokers will never tell you this because most brokers have never built a portfolio themselves. They know how to get you a loan. They do not know how to get you to property 10. I know this because I've been a mortgage broker for 8 years and an investor for 20, building my own portfolio to over $30 million before recently selling my own home. I've sat in your chair and I've sat in the broker's chair, and I know exactly what keeps people stuck. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for and how to structure your portfolio so you never get told no by the banks when you could be building further. I know what most investors love to talk about: the deal, the property, the yield, the off-market opportunity, the renovation upside. And look, that content's great. It shows what's possible and what is practical. But here is the part that most investors do not realize until they are stuck. You do not grow a portfolio by buying the perfect property. You grow it by having the right finance structure in place so that you can keep buying. And there is a massive difference between those two things. I'm not talking about interest rates here. Rates go up, rates go down, and that's short-term noise. What I am talking about is how your entire lending strategy is set up to scale, how your structure gives you flexibility, how it allows you to move when an opportunity comes up without having to sell something, refinance everything, or jump through hoops that should just not be there. Most investors do not think about this until they're already stuck. They've got equity, but they can't access it. They've got income, but they've hit a serviceability wall, or they've boxed themselves into a structure that looked fine at the time and is now working against them at every turn. That is not a property problem. That is a structure problem. And it is the quiet reason that more portfolios stall at 2 or 3 properties than most people would like to admit, even when on paper the investor is doing everything right. So if any of that is starting to sound familiar, here's what I want you to take away from this. The answer is probably not a better property. The answer is a better system behind the properties that you are already buying. And that starts with how you think about debt. For most people, debt is something to be avoided. It is framed as risky, stressful, something to be paid down as fast as possible. And that mindset makes complete sense if your goal is to be debt-free. But as a property investor, that mindset will cap your potential. Full stop. Debt is not dangerous. Bad debt is. Used properly, debt is the mechanism that allows you to control assets that you could never have saved up to buy outright. Good debt is tax deductible, it is income producing, and it is working for you. Bad debt is personal, non-deductible, and doing nothing for your wealth. The goal as an investor is to systematically shift from one to the other. That shift is a big part of how you scale. Now let me walk you through the mistakes I see most consistently. Not dramatic blow-up mistakes, just the quiet ones that do not seem like a big deal at the time, but put a ceiling on your whole portfolio 2 or 3 properties later. The first one is not using debt to invest strategically. You'd be surprised how often I see this. Someone with solid income, decent savings, meaningful equity, still trying to fund their next deposit entirely in cash. They are thinking like a saver, not like an investor, and that distinction costs them years. The second one is getting too attached to the equity sitting in the family home. I get it emotionally, but the number of people that I see with $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 in equity sitting completely idle in their owner-occupier is striking. That is not safety, that is dead money. It is momentum you had built and chosen not to use. The third one is cross-securing properties without understanding exactly what that means. This one tends to happen when things are going well. You're buying a second or third investment and the bank says, no problem, we can put that together for you. What they do not tell you is that your properties are now all tangled together. You want to sell one, you have to unravel the whole structure. You want to refinance one, same story. It is messy, it is limiting, and it is entirely avoidable with the right setup from the start. The fourth one is assuming that borrowing capacity is fixed. This might be the most expensive belief in property investing. Someone hits a serviceability wall with their current lender, the broker says, that's it, and they stop. But borrowing power is not fixed. Different lenders assess income differently. Different lenders treat existing debt differently. Some lenders will give you meaningfully more capacity than others for the exact same financial profile. The people who keep building are the ones who know exactly what levers exist before they need them. And the fifth one is optimizing for the wrong thing. The classic example is interest rates. I've had clients hold back from their next purchase because they were fixated on a rate difference of 0.2%. And I understand the instinct. You want the best deal. But if that fixation stops you from using a non-bank lender who could get you into a $600,000 property, you've just traded a better rate for a missed asset. The opportunity cost of doing nothing is almost always larger than the cost of a marginally higher interest rate. None of these mistakes are unusual. They are just common. And the real problem is that most investors do not know that they've made them until the ceiling is already there. If you are sitting on 2 or 3 properties and you're not sure whether your structure is working for you or against you, there is a link in the description to book a call with our team. We will look at where you're actually at and what your next move looks like from here. Now that we know what not to do, let me walk you through how investors who keep building actually think about this. The first thing, and it might sound obvious, but it matters, is getting the foundations right. The most scalable portfolios are built on disciplined basics. That means reducing or eliminating non-deductible personal debt. It means getting household spending under control. It means making sure equity is being used strategically rather than sitting idle. You do not need to build a $5 million portfolio from clever hacks. You need to build it from good financial decisions repeated over a long period of time. The second thing is knowing how to respond when you hit a wall, because every investor will. The wall is usually one of 2 things. You've either run out of borrowing capacity or you do not have enough accessible equity. The difference between getting stuck there and moving through it is knowing what your options actually are before you hit it. Can you switch lenders to unlock more equity? Can you restructure your existing loans to free up borrowing capacity? Is lender's mortgage insurance worth considering, even if it costs more upfront? The answer is different for every situation, but the investors who keep moving are the ones who already understand the menu of options available to them. The third thing is being open to a non-bank strategy. This one flies under the radar for a lot of investors. Non-bank lenders can open up doors that major lenders can't. So say you find a $600,000 investment property and it ticks every box. Good location, solid yield, strong long-term upside. But your existing lender says no, you're tapped out. The question is whether you are willing to pay a marginally higher interest rate to secure that deal. Here's what the maths actually looks like. 6% annual growth on a $600,000 property is $36,000 a year in capital growth. At 80% LVR, that loan is $480,000. If you're paying 1% more with a non-bank lender, that's an additional $4,800 per year in interest. So the question is whether you'd actually trade $4,800 in extra interest to generate $36,000 in extra growth. That is what thinking like an investor looks like, rather than thinking like a borrower. The one caveat on non-bank lending is that you need an exit plan. The goal is to use them to get into the next asset, let the growth and the servicing picture improve, and then refinance back to a mainstream lender when the numbers support it. Structure matters enormously here because the exit plan needs to be built into the setup from day one. The fourth thing is setting up an active debt recycling strategy. I've touched on this in one of my other videos, but here is the core of it. Debt recycling is the process of converting non-deductible personal debt into deductible investment debt over time. You're paying down your owner-occupier while simultaneously expanding a portfolio that is generating income and growth. Done properly, it improves your tax position, your cash flow, and your capacity to keep building simultaneously. The word I want to land on though is strategy. This is not something you implement off the back of a YouTube video. It requires your broker, your accountant, and your financial goals to be aligned and working together. The investors who execute this well have a team around them that are investors themselves and understand what the outcome is supposed to look like, not just the mechanics of the transaction. So here's where we have landed. Structure is not the most exciting part of property investing. It is not the story you tell at dinner, but is the thing that determines whether your portfolio keeps growing or quietly runs out of road after property 2 or 3. The investors who build serious portfolios over time are not necessarily the ones who found the best properties. They are the ones who had the right system behind every purchase, the right debt, the right lenders, the right structure, and the right team helping them think 3 moves ahead. If you want to put a proper plan in place around your next move, there is a link in the description. And if you're still in research mode, I've also linked my video on how to increase your borrowing capacity below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.